Hey,
What
there.
up? Loud
Oh,
and clear.
there we go. All righty.
Give it a minute here, minute or two.
Okie dokie. Got some jobs data, job list data, I should say. Um, was it Nothing Burger? I'm pretty sure I saw. Oh, hey, Brock, I'll get you my password thing so you can do it to mine as well. That's what you want, right?
Sure. Wow. We've gapped up 11 out of the last 12 days.
Mm, that's impressive. Um, mm, PX9, let me take a look. Yeah, it is. I mean, I'd prefer the position be down here,
Yeah, 820 was the buy there.
anywhere in this zone versus up here.
You want to pull your screen up? I let you.
Oh yeah, I always start talking without the screen. Just send out an alert here. Yeah, I mean, this can always do like more of a, base and break type setup, which, I'm still looking at this Dell. I was hoping for a week open on some of these um, today. What else is there? SMCI. You said a line in the chat yesterday, Brett, where that's best trading days are kind of behind it, which is probably likely true. HPE, EMAT.
SMCI feels like it's like Tesla, like Middleton to 2022.
Yeah, yeah. A standby. No, just kidding.
There it is.
I did say that yesterday afternoon about something, and I think you're in the bathroom, right?
Man, if we're buying Celsius, it's probably definitely time to short the market.
Dude, I bought it yesterday.
I'm just kidding.
I hope not. All right, hey folks, how we doing? Welcome. Good morning. Let's get to work. Thursday, August 22nd. It is 8:04 Central Time, 9:04 Eastern Time, and whatever the hell that translates to on the West Coast. Um, let's take a look at the market here. Uh, SPY's gapping up a little bit over yesterday's high. We're up what? Is that why does this say? Oh, that's a 5 minute. There we go. We're up 0.33%, just under $2. Pushing 562.50. I mean, we're in this kind of gap area with what is this, like 560 as support, a little bit, below that, maybe above that for this, gap support from back here. This gap gets filled pretty much at all-time highs. Um, Man, interesting market. There's a lot of, yeah, I think individual stock setups that are continuing to look attractive. as these days progress. I want to go over a couple things we covered yesterday morning. First, I want to start with this Meta, which we actually covered the past 2 days in pre-market. Starting with this inside day on Tuesday, Brecco, you had mentioned this really nice flag that was forming out. It's consolidation above this earnings open. The earnings open was 521.50. We had just been kind of maintaining that, found some support just below 523 on Monday, and then inside day Tuesday. Make sure this 3 candle pattern, right, is welded into your brain, because when you get these things to break, you can often get explosive moves. And then when we look at the action that occurred intraday right off the open, this was being highlighted throughout the day, and Sharp ended up throughout the opening session, and Sharp ended up sending out an alert. But right, you get this 1 candle push up, 1 candle sideways, 3rd candle to break, right? It's just textbook opening range break stuff. And then you get this confirmation right here with the lower wick defending that opening range. And this might not look like much, just like a few candles, but this is a 529 all the way up to 539. It's a $10 move. And if you think of points in terms of like options contracts, right? If you buy at the money, that's $1,000 per contract appreciation on right, intrinsic value of the options, or just if you buy shares, right, $10 per share on that. That was a very substantial move. That was pretty quick and clear to capture. Covered right in the pre-market on a live stream here. And then when you use this inside day trigger, right, that was at about 531, and you just want to see the market set up around that level to see if it's going to break. You don't always have to wait for right specifically 531 to break, because at that point you're buying, right, this move is already gone about $3.5 to where right you can just use the shorter term time frames with the higher term time frame as your thesis to implement. And this was I thought was a phenomenal trade. What are some other things we covered in pre-market? We talked about this Reddit looking attractive. This ended up having a really solid day yesterday, breaking out of this little channel on Tuesday, and then Wednesday start getting that lower wick buying pressure to hold and give a little bit cleaner areas to risk off of, and this ended up turning into a trender. Now we've got like this 57-ish area to kind of maybe consolidate and dance around. You got really like 57 to 59 to maybe dance around and build out for another leg, in my opinion, if it wants to build out another little mini base here on the hourly chart. This GEV hasn't gotten going yet, but still valid and setting up. You got 3 really tight days, 4 days of consolidation into the 90 MA after, right at these all-time highs, right? There's a relatively new IPO. Still think this is a major priority. In fact, I'm going to say red to green. It's not opening up red, but you can still treat it as like a red to green type setup, where if we get pushing right away at the open, especially if we break yesterday's high 185.24, really confirmed over 186, I think this will be ready to go on GEV, which I think is a big one to watch. Gilead still working 75.15 in the pre-market. I do want to see a little bit of indication candle on this. What I mean by that is, let me clean this up a little bit. Since we entered, it's just been kind of, we entered right around, where was it? Right in this area right here. It's just been kind of grinding up. I'd like some sort of like indication candle to, maybe raise stops against, because as of right now, right, the setup is still valid. So pretty much all the way down here. So I'd like some sort of consolidation, build out, or notable area to make the risk a little bit cleaner. DDOG, This is open up slightly weak. I'm interested to see how this trades with snow down over 10%. Microsoft put out a note kind of adjusting their Q1 outlook for 2025. There's really nothing actually important in that other than some of the ways that they're going to acknowledge or like book revenues, or how they're going to break it up. Anyways, I'm curious as to how this DDOG ends up trading today with that, Snowflake having earnings. I would like to see this either for sure hold yesterday's low. My stop is still break even on this 115.50. I may probably should still have it at 114, but is what it is. I'm going to keep it at 115.50. I would love for this to get a nice push. If this ends up pushing today, it's going to look really nice, and we'll be really happy with this trade. So I want to see us go red to green today, and then probably would move my stop up to today's low. EA still kind of grinding around. Broke the inside day yesterday, kind of closed right up at that inside day high from Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday yesterday. And this is just some pre-market illiquidity action. I want to see this really get going today, or get some sort of indication candle where we dip down to the 9 EMA and hold. I still think the October calls on this are valid, with the stop pretty much below 148.30. Any other ones I wanted to go over? Oh, Celsius and Coors really quickly. So Celsius ended up getting this yesterday. We kind of talking about it as this was building out right here on this 65-minute chart. And I'm like, this is really nice to where we could be building out, rounding out for a higher low and starting to, build some true trend characteristics on this. This is actually a pretty good study for cycle of price action as well. Is starting to build out, but with this big lower wick popping through the MAs, retesting the 9 and 20 right here. I'd prefer a little bit lower entry than what I have, around 40, what I have, 41.07. Probably could have gotten it closer to like 40.75 or so. But was just kind of balancing between this daily chart that isn't quite ready yet in the 65-minute. But I think this daily could set up if the 65-minute begins to play out the way I would like it to. And then CORZ had a really strong close yesterday. We're sitting at 1057, added to some of this yesterday. Yeah, I think this chart looks absolutely fantastic. We got like 3 days of consolidation really right here after thrusting through the MAs. I think this is a must-have. I got an average of, 10.15 on it right now. Yeah, I'd be fine even if this dips down back to the MAs around 1070, 1080. I think I'd end up buying a little bit more on this with a little bit looser stop to see what this stock can do. No, it's a mouthful. Anything else I need to cover in terms of some open stuff? FSLR. Yeah, we can go into that later, but cool. Brock, I'll pass it over to you, see what you got on some stuff, and then I'll go over some more stuff for today. What up?
Yo, let me bring my screen up real quick.
There you go.
Yeah, so yesterday, I guess really, my only highlight yesterday was this ONON. Kind of covered this on Sunday as one of my 2 top watches in the week. The other one was FSLR, which hasn't really triggered for me yet. I'm kind of just watching TSDR kind of manage that trade. Maybe I'll hop in if it starts to look a little better. But yeah, I got this ONON on Tuesday. In the morning, this kind of dipped down in the 9 EMA and came into a really nice, just horizontal pivot. This like 41.20 area was what I was watching. This ended up holding, got some October calls on the 45s. And this ended up just ripping out of nowhere yesterday morning. Had a 7% move in like the first hour, I think. So those October calls ran 100%. I was able to, I wanted to trim some off into this left peak from back here in June, just considering how aggressive and quick that move was at the open. certainly seemed like the kind of move that would get faded off a little bit, which it did near the end of the day. So I took some off up there, but we got like a little over 2 months left on these. And I'm just going to try to let it work. It's gapping up again this morning. And yeah, probably have my stop like under yesterday's low, which will be in profit. So, yeah, going to let this try to play out. I think this chart still looks really good. This weekly looks phenomenal. When you take out like 45 on this, this is pretty much has clear skies above up to these IPO highs. So, gonna let this go. Still got Rocket Lab. I got some of this Fubo from late last week, which is actually setting up really nice on the 30-minute to today. So see if that could continue. Now, as far as today goes, you got an interesting setup. So I'm not sure that we have much on the event calendar today. You got a couple things, some PMI and home sales at 10 a.m. But nothing too notable. The big catalyst that everyone's got their eyes on is Powell's speech tomorrow at Jackson Hole at 10 a.m. So definitely a big catalyst into tomorrow. We're just gapping up on the market again this morning. I'll be honest, what really kind of dominated my scans this morning as far as like the setups I look for are a lot of these secondary semiconductors, which is interesting. And I'll cover a few of them here really quick. They all have, the same sort of pattern where you got that really nasty sell-off from the highs when the market corrected. They bounced off the lows. They're up into the 20 EMA or just above, and they're pulling back and supporting at the moving averages. The moving averages are starting to curl higher, and they got these really tight, like 3 to 5 day flag patterns, which is a really, really nice look. Now, let me cover them and then I'll go over into my thoughts a little more on them. But first one's this SMCI. This has got 4 days sideways, had a really nice wedge pop. It's right up into the 20 EMA. I'd say the trigger is around like 630, 635 on this. If you're already in this, that's awesome. But this is, just one of those little EMA crossback setups that look really clean. Same with AMAT, right? You got double inside days here the last 2 days, supporting right at the 9 and the 20. Nine's crossed into over the 20. You got a really clean trend line that we're trying to break in the pre-market right now. I'd say 210's a trigger spot on this, 3 yesterday's high. QCOM, you got the same sort of little crossback pattern as well. You got a flat top through 175-ish on this. AVGO's kind of already doing it. This thing's taken off up 3%. MU got a similar flat top look, 110 trigger on this, 109 maybe, but you guys can see how these are all like, setting up the same exact pattern, right? Another one of those was LRCX too. You got popped over the 200 day, right back through and right back in the 9 and 20, just building out a really nice flag. So you got a ton of these semiconductors all setting up sort of the same pattern. Now, these are really like some of my favorite setups in the market, and kind of what I like to look for. But, there's one concern here that I'm kind of just keeping in the back of my mind, when, looking at these setups is that, I typically like these setups a lot more when you have like the broad market, especially the indexes sort of, lining up in the same, area, right? So like where SPY is already, taken off completely, and almost back near all-time highs, where a lot of the semis are like kind of still like down here in this area, setting up like that crossback setup. And, same with the QQQ all the way back pretty well above the 50-day. And you got SMH kind of gapping right into the 50-day this morning. It's getting a little above it in the pre-market. So now, so this is a pretty explosive combination potentially, right? If you do have these secondary semis, which, some of these semis like LRCX and, AMAT stuff and QCOM, I kind of consider those like the secondary semis, and maybe like the laggards of the market right now in a sense, where these kind of sold off the hardest when the market topped. And they're all still like relatively below their 50-day moving averages by a good bit, where you got SMH, QQQ, SPY, NVIDIA, all those above their 50-day moving averages. So, what I'm trying to keep in mind is that, the market certainly is extended, which, isn't always a bad thing. But you kind of got like the laggards setting up now and building out really obvious patterns. And I just think that with a lot of eyes on these patterns, that could either end well or end badly. I don't think this is a spot to get like extremely aggressive on this. I think these setups do look solid. Like as far as what price is telling us just on these charts, is that these look set up and ready to break out and head up to their 50-day moving averages. So maybe this, when these start to participate, you really get the market to like literally melt up from here for the, next couple days. So this is certainly an interesting setup into the end of the week, given, that we have a pretty big catalyst tomorrow as well. So it's going to be a little bit tricky. A lot of these are gapping up a little bit out of these patterns. A week open today on the market would have been really nice because then we could have taken a lot of these red to green. So gap ups will be a little bit tricky on these, but these look pretty much all ready to break today. I don't think that these, I think it's really unlikely that these are going to put in another really tight day today. So, it's either going to be breakout or these are going to kind of fail ahead of tomorrow. I think one or the other on these. So those are going to be a big watch for me, kind of as a tell on what the market's going to do, because, typically when you get the market to make a really, really big move, and you have some of the lagging stocks start to set up and everybody wants to buy these now, that's typically a good spot to maybe reduce some exposure when like the weakest of the bunch start to look good. So definitely an interesting spot there. EVGO is another one. You mentioned this yesterday, TSDR. I think, given how the last 4 days looked, that this could be ready pretty much any day now. This is just like, feels like textbook Kumagi setup, right? Where you get the big move, you get the pullback, undercut, reclaim, surf the moving averages, get tight, right? It's got all the characteristics. So this looks really nice. I mean, it looks like, breakout pretty much imminent any day now. I've seen some people talking about this, so we'll see what this can do, but this does look really nice. Got a high ATR. Yes, this thing can move for sure. You got a big base on it too, so that'll be on my list. You mentioned cores. That's still on my list. What else I got here? We talked about this cat yesterday. This still looks really good too. It's got that same like EMA crossback look. You got like 5 really tight days here. Now, this is like an industrial name. The XLI is like really extended up into this previous left peak. So, this looks like it definitely could pull back. So I'm trying to be mindful that this could dip down and maybe build out a little bit of a nicer base. But, unless a setup is absolutely perfect on something like this and it aligns, with the indexes and stuff, it's kind of hard for me to want to take this over some of the other looks I'm seeing on my scan. So probably like more on like the back seat for me, one of these names. This Baidu could be interesting today. Looking at maybe an IV flush play on this. They report earnings this morning, selling off a little bit right now in the pre-market. So it's only down 1.8%. It's within the implied move. So this could be a fun little trader today. This tried to, pop over 90 and failed this morning. It's selling off right now. Taking a look at some of the other China names, Bahabas looks really good. It pulled back, had a nasty gap down on Tuesday, held the 9 EMA, gapped up yesterday with a big kicker candle, and it's strong again in the pre-market. And then you got, PDD looking phenomenal as well. This, pulled back and responded really well off the 9 EMA, continues to trend. This one was a monster off the lows. And same with like FXI. This is gapping up again this morning. It held this little crossback area, undercut this gap. Really nice look. These still look solid. So, I'm trying to keep in mind like that, maybe this Baidu could get bought up. I don't know that I'm not really interested in shorting it at all, to be honest. This is really beat down and I'd rather have my focus elsewhere. But if this has potential to hold today, I'm watching 88.80 or 87.80 to 88. You can see this 87.80, 87.70 was kind of the low of the last 2 days. And you also got the 9 and 20-day moving average right there, which this hasn't touched yet since it popped back above. Now we are into a declining 50-day moving average, and this thing's kind of been like all pops have been sells on this. But if this ends up wanting to build out like a little EMA crossback, this would be the spot to hold today. And you got a catalyst, so maybe they'll step in on this week open on earnings and they end up buying this up. So if this gets some signs that it's holding this like yesterday's low, the 9 EMA in this like 88 area, this could certainly be a red to green candidate today. And if it takes out yesterday's highs at like 88 or 89.80, you could get a big move on this today up through 90. So not going to really try to just, bottom tick this thing at all. But if you start to see some buyers really step in and this thing gets going, I think you could chase that a little bit to the upside. I think I'd rather chase some really strong upside momentum than trying to buy this at support levels while it's like knifing, not a good stock to do that, do something like that on. So yeah, I think that's for the most part what I'll be looking at today. Going to let these manage these positions, and yeah, that's what I got for today. No, I do. I am heading out at noon today. I already talked to you. I'm traveling later today. So I gotta head out around 1 o'clock. So probably not looking to put on any big positions today or anything. I'll be trading tomorrow just a little later in the day. I'm gonna try to get back for Powell's speech because that should be interesting. But I just saying don't expect much from me today. Kind of gonna be maybe just scalp some of these names I talked about and sit and watch for the most part. So
There we go. Alright, my screen's back up. A few. Yeah, I like this caterpillar. I like this cat. I got an alert set still at like three. I think I set it at 341, which would be like the lows of these candles, just above the lows of last week Wednesday or last week Thursday and Friday. Love the way that this is building out. Let's take a look at the weekly. Got an inside week so far. I mean, this has been $4 of range all week. Where it's recently had an $18 ATR of late. So this is just extremely tight. I think it's super worthy of having on the watch list. I want to bring up this S-Bucks as well. This has big gap up on snagging Chipotle CEO. We had double inside days the past 2 days here. The 65-minute would prefer it a little bit closer to this upper trend line spot. But it's just getting right super tight after that PR. I think this is worthy of having on the list as well. In terms of some of those semis, type ones, there's a lot of these, even this VRT, right? Just made a big move through the MAs, pulled back, held the 9 and 20 as they were converging and crossing, kind of built out a little bit of range. Yesterday, kind of undercut and remounted, and sitting right here. So a lot of these still look pretty decent. To put on some trades. You had like yesterday day one hold, right? If we end up breaking this previous day's high, you get the one candle hold, break the previous candle high, type of trigger. So yeah, there's VRT, AMAT, super interested in this double inside days, LRCX, same thing. You got inside day yesterday. This really triggers over like 882 in my opinion. But hopefully we can get some sort of indication that we'll be ready to break that prior. Market opens in 2 minutes. We do have that ISM data, which I think is actually going to be fairly important.
hey, let me pull up my screen real quick.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I got something else I want to show real quick that I forgot to talk about. I wanted to talk about this Bitcoin real quick. We got 2 minutes here. I'll try to keep it quick, but this is building out really tight below this little trend line. I'd say 62K is kind of your trigger on this. This is certainly given the signs of like a little bit of a wedge pop. On Tuesday, it tried to pop over that little 3-day range and failed and looked like just like a 20 EMA rejection. And then it kind of bounced back yesterday with a nice close near the highs just below this trend line. You're opening tight today, tight little day so far. Some of these crypto stocks are getting like really tight, like your MSTR, Coin. We talked about Cores and Irene starting to curl a little bit, some of those names. This is a spot to keep an eye on at the end of the week. It looks like it's going to want to make a move, today or tomorrow. Every time we've seen Bitcoin try to break out, we've seen it fail and the market sort of sell off with it. They've kind of like coincided with each other. So are we going to get a bigger version of that where, this is going to end up just, being a wedge here and this ends up, coming back down through? Or is this going to take out 62K and get like a big move, sort of like we saw back here in this area in May, where this tightened up below the MAs and then popped back through pretty aggressively. So these should definitely be on watch for sure, I think. So
yeah, I was gonna say watch BITX with like 2950 to 2960.
Yesterday's high.
Yeah, I'd be totally fine with this being an inside day too. If it wants to stay inside. So don't lose sight of this into the end of the week and into the weekend and next week as well.
All right.